Hello, this is James Pratt with Ride, Oklahoma. On today's podcast, I'm talking to Gerad Findlay, who lives west of Oklahoma City in Hinton. As an avid overlander, Gerad has mapped out a variety of routes in western Oklahoma that follow county roads through scenic vistas, historical locations, and interesting terrain. His most popular route is the Sugar Creek route south of Hinton, but he also has routes along the Cimarron River, the Sandy Sanders Wildlife Management Area, and up through Shattuck and other western Oklahoma towns. So why don't you tell me kind of how you got started with these routes and kind of what you're doing there?
Yeah, well, I started out jeeping and off-roading and rock crawling and stuff, and I was in a trip to Moab one day, and we were doing some really hardcore stuff, and I had fun, but I wasn't enjoying the scenery as much. I was enjoying the obstacles. That was the focus, and I just wasn't happy with it. And so I kind of grew towards the overlanding world. And at the end of that trip, I ended up taking some of the easier routes, and I ended up having more fun because I was enjoying where I was at. But like most people, I have a job and kids and life, and I can't go on these big epic trips. And so I started looking in my backyard at ways I could get out, closer to home, cheaper, and things like that. And that's how the routes came to be. Literally just exploring my backyard, finding what's there and piecing it together.
So you live in Hinton, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So that it was right out through the Red Rock Canyon out west. So
yeah,
been there many times, and I've done some off-road stuff. Not off-road, but I mean trails like you've done, but you've done a lot more than I have, so you know it a lot better. And they're really a blast. They're fun to ride on, and so the kind of tell us where some of those routes go and.
Well, the Sugar Creek Loop, which is my most popular one, and it's one of the better ones because I know almost every road in that area, and we're able to piece together the best of the best. But it kind of circles around the Hinton area, Hinton, Binger, Gracemont, kind of stuff like that, and just some of the more scenic roads, some of the roads that have, older historic buildings or landscape changes and stuff. It's more of a scenic drive than anything, but people that stumble across it typically see pictures from Purgatory Road, which is a little harder. And so they think it may be an off-road route, but it's literally all on county roads. They're all legal roads. It is maintained where if they close roads or anything, I do go in and change those routes. So far, we haven't had those issues, but it's just county roads and kind of exploring out. And the way I designed them is it's actually part of a multi-day trip. When I went out and started doing these, they're linked together with camping options, typically like a WMA or state park. But I ran it as a week-long trip doing these different routes, and each one is basically a different day. And so it gives you options to piece them together and go out and have fun, or just go out for a day trip.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they're so into the off-road, the really gnarly off-road stuff, and they forget about the scenic. I like the scenic too. I take my wife a lot, and we like to slow down and enjoy the off the beaten path, you might say, but not the stuff that really just tears up your equipment. And there's places you can do that at, but these are not necessarily what that is. I mean, like you said, everybody sees Purgatory Road and they think, "Oh my gosh, that's crazy." But that's really the exception.
Yeah, and Purgatory, the Sugar Creek Loop is about 126 miles, depending on how you run it. There's a few slightly different versions out there that people have put out. But my version's like 126 miles, and Purgatory is like a quarter mile of that. It's a very small section. And typically, it's been graded lately because it's so busy. Typically, it's basically no challenge. I mean, I run it in my Subaru Outback all the time now, where back in the day, nobody really ran it. And so it may wash out and stay washed out for a month. And it was a tough ride back then in a Jeep. But now it's graded so often, honestly, it's really not much of a challenge. But it's still fun, and it gives you an opportunity to maybe throw it in four-wheel drive if you need to. And, of course, rain and everything can change that.
Well, I like the when I've been on a Purgatory. I mean, not Purgatory. I've been on the Sugar Creek 2-3 times, and I like this real scenic. I was amazed in western Oklahoma I could find like 3 or 4 or 5 water crossings. That's not something you normally see.
Yeah, there's a few scattered through there, and then a few of my other routes farther west. Like I actually just got back today from exploring around Sandy Sanders and kind of that area down around Hollis and stuff. And there's several roads down there that have water crossings and stuff. Now, of course, they're seasonal and depends on rain and stuff. But that's kind of what I seek out is just something different, something off the beaten path. And some of these roads may literally be a mile or two away from a highway, but it's just enough off the beaten path that it's a total different terrain.
I like that. I've done the Oklahoma Adventure Tour. Have you done that before, or part of it?
Yeah, I did the Oklahoma Adventure Trail, like 2017 maybe. I actually started it and ran the entire thing straight through in a week in my Jeep.
Oh, cool.
I wouldn't do that again because I was in such a hurry to finish it. You know, it was all about covering miles. If I did it again, I would just start somewhere and then take my time and explore and stop and take pictures, and just wherever I ended up, I ended up. Because there's a lot to Oklahoma, and that's what really opened my eyes when I did that route. You know, Oklahoma is so different. You can drive 20 minutes in any direction and almost be in a total different landscape and total different terrain.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I did the OAT. I don't know. It's been probably 2015 in my motorcycle. We took I think it was 11 days. We slowed down and camped a lot and stopped and did a lot of sightseeing. And but it's a long ways around. And but yeah, it was fun. I'm the same way. If you go too fast, I think you miss a lot. There's a lot of real cool scenic places that I think are fun to look at and read the history.
Yeah, there's a lot of history, and that's why, you know, I'm from Western Oklahoma, but a lot of my routes here in Western Oklahoma, they have historic significance. They're either landmarks or old buildings or stuff, old schoolhouses. Western Oklahoma still has a lot of that because it is so rural, and, you know, you can see it because it's not hidden in trees like Eastern Oklahoma. So there's a lot of things you can find if you get out and explore the western side.
So people coming from like Oklahoma City or even some up from Texas or something, if they want to, and most people know by now that like you said, the Sugar Creek route's pretty popular. But what's another route that you would recommend? Maybe one or two routes that are a little bit different, but still scenic and fun.
It kind of depends on what you're looking for. You know, Sugar Creek Loop is going to have the more terrain to drive. You know, you're going to have a chance to put it in 4-wheel drive. The majority of my other routes and stuff, you may be able to do them in a 2-wheel drive Buick all day long. You know, they're just county roads, but I personally really like the area down in southwest Oklahoma. I've got a route that goes through Sandy Sanders, which is a WMA, and it's just following their legal trails. But to go in there, you got to have a hunting license or fishing license and, you know, follow their rules. And there may be certain times that area is closed. But that's a real neat area to drive through. You just roll up and down through the canyons and stuff. And then linked to that, there's another route that I have. I think it's Schools in a Pool is what I named it. But it goes down around Hollis and stuff, and it hits a lot of historic schoolhouses and different historic significant things in that area. And then a few sandy roads to drive. But there's just a lot there in southwest Oklahoma. So that's a couple that I recommend that people typically do go out and hit those as well.
Yeah, I've been past some of those schools. I ride my bike out west, and I usually try to hit some of these dirt roads. And a lot of some of the schools are still around. Some of them are abandoned, old gyms, things you can go into.
Yeah, and the thing I really enjoyed about doing a lot of this is I started taking pictures of some of these old houses and these old schools, and not realizing that, you know, like now some of these I go out and the buildings will be gone.
Oh yeah,
they'll crumble down, and you know I'm a photographer, you know, so that's part of why I get out and do this stuff is to capture it while it's still here and why we still have access to some of this. And so seeing the changes over time, you know, that interests me, you know, not just the off-road side of things, but there's a lot of cool stuff out there.
Yeah. You know, one thing I like to do when I'm out riding or even jeeping or whatever, I like to stop and talk to people. And so if I see a farmer out working, I'll almost always pull over and chat with them and just to see what they're doing.
Yeah, and I've been able to get, you know, some tips and stuff on some of these things because some of these roads, like when I did the Oklahoma Adventure Trail, you know, I was just following a map, but maybe I missed something because it was just slightly off. And sometimes, especially when I drive a Jeep with a rooftop tent and all this stuff on it typically, or my Subaru Outback, it's got all these mods and stuff done on it. So when people see me, typically they'll stop and be like, "What are you doing out here?" But then when I explain, "Hey, we're doing this. We like finding these routes and these old historic things and just cruising back roads, and of course, we tread lightly and we follow all these rules and stuff. So we're not harming anything." But when they find that out, a lot of times they'll be like, "Hey, do you know about this schoolhouse?" Or, "This house that may look normal, here's the history on it. Maybe it's something really cool," and a lot of that you get from those encounters just randomly happening along the way.
Yeah, now one thing I did, I had a few winters ago, I had kind of boring and bored, and I got a book called Ghost Towns of Oklahoma. Have you seen that from Oklahoma Press?
Yes, I've got that.
You got that? Well, I went and spent the whole winter marking off as best I could GPS coordinates for all those towns, because in the book they're just range, section, township range, and so they're hard to translate to GPS coordinates. So I went on to Google Maps and Google Earth and tried to figure out as best I could where they're all at. And so now I have if I'll share with you, a Google map with pretty close to coordinates to all those ghost towns of Oklahoma, which is pretty cool. And so when I ride those routes or drive those routes, I like to try to stop by some of those ghost towns. And some of them you can see things that are there, and some of them you can't.
Yeah, I've stumbled across several of them. Same way. If you didn't know it was there, you wouldn't know it. But some of them do have a pretty historical significance. Like even here around Hinton, we've got Bridgeport to the north of us that is almost nothing now. There's, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 houses left there, and there's really nothing left. But back in the day, that was like a main train stop because everything intersected there. They had a whole bunch of hotels. There's an Olympic-sized swimming pool hidden up in the trees. Like, there's a lot of history in Bridgeport. But people don't realize it because the interstate moved it away, the railroad changed, and it dwindled down to nothing.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, great. So where can people find, you keep the routes pretty well updated. Where can people find that at if they want to go run those routes? Where's the good places to get those?
So all my routes are published on a Facebook group. It's just one big file, but it's Oklahoma Backroad Exploration Routes. And right now the group is paused. You can still get in, you can get all the information. It's all there in public, but it's paused because I had just so many people coming in, especially the side-by-side and ATV community that aren't street legal. And they were coming in wanting to run these and sharing pictures and stuff. And if you're street legal and you follow the rules, you can run parts of these routes, but some of these do cross federal roads and do things, and there's some limitations there. And so I was just having issues. There was people getting tickets and then coming after me because I was posting the route. It's like, but it wasn't made for you. It's fine that you do it if you follow the rules, but you gotta have a street legal vehicle to do these because they're just county roads. They're all legal roads. And then some federal roads and federal highways where needed. But it's all there on the Facebook group. I do keep the file updated, but I've paused the group just because it blew up overnight. I don't know how it got popular, but it went from a few hundred people to like 17,000, and then it just got to be a pain. So I paused it. Maybe I'll come back to it. Maybe I'll add some more routes. Because I was actually going to do all of Oklahoma eventually and just start piecing and linking all these together to where you could just find some random routes and go out and have fun. And I'm still making routes, but I haven't decided how I'm going to proceed as far as publishing them and sharing them, and still trying to make sure everyone follows the rules when they go out and explore, because we are driving through somebody's, backyard. This is where people live. These are the roads that these farmers use to get everywhere, and we don't want to tear them up, obviously.
I had a similar thing happen to me. I did this. I've done routes for, like I said, I've been riding for 40 years. And I did a route I've done southeast Oklahoma a lot. And I did a route down there. I kind of made off some of my routes I'd done before. And I called it the Choctaw Nation Adventure Tour down through southeast Oklahoma. And part of it I had to piece together off of memory and using Google Maps. Well, I come to find out one little section there went through it wasn't clear where it went through, and some guy went down there and cut a fence and went through, followed my route, cut somebody's fence, and then he got the sheriff come to his place of work and a couple of days after that. And he was calling me, or he's getting hold of me going, he was kind of upset about that. I go, well, don't cut fences. That's not a good thing. Because they caught him on trail camera, cutting their fence. I don't like that. People don't care for that. So I kind of stopped. I took that route down for a while because I was going, I need to get this fixed. And, I don't want to be my responsibility. Don't go places you shouldn't go. So.
Yeah, exactly. And like the purpose for me making these and sharing them was to give someone a starting point to get out. But you still have to know the rules and you still have to follow. And, like when you're driving along these back roads, and if you look off and something looks like it would be fun to drive up, that don't mean you should go do it, unfortunately. And people do, we try to educate, I think every community is the same way. We try to educate people on doing things correctly, but it is what it is. And honestly, I made mistakes in the past. We all have made mistakes. We've all went places we wasn't sure. And we learn and grow on that. But, these are just a way to get people started. I know the Sugar Creek Loop kind of got popular because someone uploaded it onto the Onyx software. So it's right there if you have Onyx, so it's easy to find. But a lot of people don't realize there's more routes to it. And if they enjoy that and getting out on some of these back roads, grab the whole file and go hit some more of this out in Western Oklahoma and see what's out there.
Yeah, I would recommend people do that because, Sugar Creek's fun, but there's a lot of other stuff too. And, if you're looking for places, and, I can go out and I have fun just riding dirt roads anyway. I don't really need a map or somebody's trail, but it's nice to have some places to go and places to see and some historical landmarks to go to. That makes it fun.
Exactly. Like this weekend, we went out and we explored some areas I've been, some new areas, and we had a few things in mind to hit, but in between, we just picked random roads. And maybe you find something, maybe you don't. Maybe you find a dead end road closed and have to reroute around, but that's all part of the fun for me.
Well, good. I'm glad you're doing this. I appreciate you doing it for our community and for the off-road, both motorcycle and jeeping and overlanding. So, hope you keep it up and enjoy it.
I hope it continues to grow. And of course, I can be found on West OK Overland on just about everything. I have a small YouTube channel, small Instagram and stuff, but people message me and ask for tips and tricks, and I'll help what I can in the overland and Jeep world. If it's something to do with the adventure bike world, typically I pass it along to a few other people I know, because that's an area I haven't started yet, just because I'm the type of person, if I get an adventure bike, I'll go crazy and buy all these accessories, and I won't stop. I'll get excited and just keep going. I want one, and someday it's probably going to happen. But my pocketbook and, the money situation, it's been holding me back, and I'm trying not to jump on one yet.
Yeah, and you got kids. Still got kids at home.
Yeah,
so
I got kids in life,
Yeah. Well, good. Well, I appreciate your time today, and I'll put some links where people can find your Facebook page, and keep up the good work. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on.